he picked up his book, which he had decided to read as part of his scientific program, and prepared to read. And before he began to engage in reading, it occurred to him to open his smartphone to take a quick tour of the latest developments. He thought that it would not exceed only a few minutes, and he began to click on the pages, dragging them one by one on the social networks. And he saw people were talking about an incident that had happened recently, and he longed to know a brief detail about it. He began searching a little, going back and forth between websites and identifiers. When he understood the event, he was intensified by the explosion of comments on the event, and several hashtags ignited as a result. Then he was surprised that the matter had evolved from comment and commentary, to responses and rebuttals. Each movement adhered to the position of the other, and while in the midst of controversy, he came across funny comments from some funny people, or harsh responses from some smart people. So he began photographing some of them on his phone and sending them to some friends and social groups. Then he kept waiting for the reaction of his friends, and some responses came to him and another internal communication discussion arose. Then he did not wake up except for the voice of the muezzin, surprising him. The time for the next prayer had arrived, and he had not left the first page of his book, which he had decided to go some way in reading. This is an intense and sad snapshot, excerpted from the tape of a student who, God has destined, to live the moment of scientific formation in the era of the revolution of communication systems and communication networks. I do not like to present before the reader a hypocritical story. Rather, the writer of these lines had scientific and practical tasks that collided with the deadline for submitting them, and he was forced to postpone them when he thought about himself. He saw that part of the reasons lay behind the network's embezzlement of his time without him realizing it. So he decided to study this problem, through texts and analyses of scholars, and what contemporary studies have revealed about this dilemma, and to restore motivation by experiencing scientific expertise and practical experiences in the modern era. The truth is that the matter is bigger than I had imagined. It is no longer limited to the complaint of a young man who is new to seeking knowledge and reading. Rather, it has become a complaint among the elite of those involved in knowledge and advocacy. Some pure people have broadcast to me condolences about such a complaint that makes the hearts of knowledge break their hearts. Some students of knowledge, he says that he was late in completing his academic thesis because of his preoccupation with communication networks, and that he got into trouble with the department and needed postponement, pleas and intercessions. And another mentions he was unable to balance himself, so he was forced to delete his account repeatedly. Another mentioned that he could not restrain himself from accessing the network via his smartphone, so he was forced to throw it away and buy a traditional device that does not provide internet access. Another mentioned to me that he began browsing silently and avoided commenting on social networks out of shyness. People feel that he is drowning in the vortex of these networks while they think that he is a serious scholarly figure. Rather, one of the most amazing things that I have come across is an incident revealed by the jurist and preacher Muhammad al-Mukhtar al-Shankiti, a story that has shaking connotations, which is awareness. Sheikh al-Shankiti is known for his avoidance of engaging in hot issues of public affairs, and his focus on teaching jurisprudence and lectures on faith sermons. There have been frequent reports about his asceticism and unanimity, and his withdrawal from public issues of controversy, we consider him and God to be his judge. During his lecture, a young man asked him a question that boiled over from his suffering from social networks, where the questioner says, "Your Eminence, I am plagued like others these days with a lot of following news and events, an addiction to social networking programs, which affects my relationship with the Quran, and has many negatives, to the extent that I pray to God in my prostration that God will divert my heart from these distractions, and I leave them sometimes and then I will come back. Show me the solution. May God reward you." Your eyes, dear reader, will not miss the heat of pain when complaining about this questioner because the balance wheel has slipped out of it, to the point that he even started praying to God in his prostration. He wanted to be saved from this suffering. Then he told himself that he was freed and then returned, and he wanted a final solution to his suffering. Sheikh al-Shankiti gave a long, scientifically based answer. He preferred it and did not give a general answer. Rather, he distinguished between people's conditions and categories in dealing with these networks, and between the praiseworthy and reprehensible conditions. And this is not all of this that attracted me, but rather what surprised me as I was listening, and I was astonished by what he knows. May God extend it, that the Sheikh was frank with his listeners about an orphan incident that happened to him personally, and he was disengaged from these matters to begin with. The Sheikh says, "By God, these means are strange. I once sat on what is called Twitter, and its name is something in my soul, and I actually sat after a prayer dinner for the first time, until I was surprised by snoring. Pink from the night has gone, a great calamity. You do not feel anything. You do not feel. And whoever knows these things knows this." And I remained amazed. I stopped listening and replayed the clip repeatedly. This Shankiti, who is averse to what people delve into, oh God, and who is busy explaining jurisprudential texts and faiths, says this about himself in One Orphan's Night. How about a nation of young people who died on my side as social networks in the golden years of educational attainment? Well, this is of course related to the problem of the imbalance in investing in the resources of these networks, and these networks have many different contents that we will refer to later. But one of these contents had a significant impact that caught my attention, which is the phenomenon of immersion in political news.